Trans porn is one of the most famous categories of porn worldwide. Straight men in every country on earth don't just regularly watch trans porn, they actively search for it. But why? Does it mean these men are actually gay? Or just sexual freaks? The truth is far more interesting and nuanced. And to understand it, we'll take a deep dive into male sexuality, backed by the largest study ever conducted on this topic. We'll learn why the age of a woman is the most powerful sexual trigger for men and the two age brackets that men are attracted to most. We'll discuss how the shape and size of a woman's body affects sexual arousal in men. We'll also talk about the three specific parts of the female body and one specific part of the male body that evokes sexual arousal in men and the evolutionary mechanisms behind that arousal. Finally, we'll put all our findings together to answer the question, why do straight men watch trans porn? Let's begin. Before the 21st century, there was very little data available on people's sexual desires and preferences. When faced with this problem, two computational neuroscientists, Dr. Ogi Ogus and Dr. Sai Gaddam, realized that there was a treasure trove of data that still remained untapped. Internet porn, where using the benefit of anonymity, people unleashed their most raw sexual desires on their keyboards. Dr. Ogus and Dr. Gaddam gathered 400 million web searches, accessed 500,000 personal search histories, and analyzed the 40,000 most trafficked porn websites. They then combined their insights from this data with the latest findings in neuroscience and sex research. The goal? To understand the specific natural cues that trigger sexual desire in men and women. In this video, we'll focus on the men. The first thing that separates male sexuality from female sexuality is that it is highly visual. Men like to see, to watch, to ogle. The most popular porn sites, including Brazzers, Bang Bros, and Reality Kings, typically attract an audience that is around 75% men. Of course, that does mean that 25% of visitors are women. But what happens when you ask men and women to pay for porn? The gender gap changes from 75-25 to 98-2. In fact, the male desire to simply look at female body parts is so high that they're routinely caught watching porn at work. From your average blue-collar worker to a member of parliament, men are willing to risk their entire careers and incur significant public humiliation just to look at naked women. So, what kind of naked women do men like to look at? When it comes to sexual desire, the number one thing that men are most interested in is the age of the woman. Here's a graph showing the frequency of sexual searches that contain specific ages of a woman. For example, naked 20-year-olds or busty 45-year-olds. It is clear from the graph that teens is the most popular category of sexual search by a large margin. It is the number one sexual interest on search engines in most countries in the world, including India, Japan, Russia, and Europe. Out of the 40,000 most popular porn websites, 2,500 are dedicated to feature teens. It is also hard to miss the uncomfortable fact that the single most searched age is 16-year-olds. But that's not all. Apparently, there is another age bracket that is incredibly popular among men, 40 and 50-year-olds, or as otherwise known in the porn industry, MILFs. While it is no match for the popularity of teen porn, MILF is still the second most searched category of porn. Out of the 40,000 most popular porn websites, 1,200 are dedicated to feature MILFs. Even a socially conservative culture like India had its own version of the MILF genre, Savita Bhabhi. This comic strip details the adventures of lusty, buxom housewife Savita, who seduces salesmen, milkmen, and neighborhood youth while her husband is away at work. It seemed as if Savita existed for one reason and one reason only: to seduce the first male in sight. This represents the appeal of the entire MILF genre in the male mind. When asked about the appeal of MILFs, men usually respond that they love how experienced, mature, and confident MILFs are. There is this notion that MILFs are more aggressive at pursuing sex and one-night stands, without any expectations of a romantic arrangement. But where did men get the idea that middle-aged women are just waiting to have aggressive sex with them? You might think that it's the movies or popular culture, but the explanation goes much, much deeper. Breasts, butts, and hips. Biologists have a name for these oversized parts of the female body that men find so enchanting. They call it ornamentation. We will discuss the male preference for ornamentation in detail, but for now, here's what we need to understand. Ornamentation is a rough indicator of how many years of fertility remain across a woman's entire lifetime. Note that it does not indicate current fertility, but remaining fertility. This difference is crucial because when it comes to maximizing reproductive benefits, current fertility offers a man benefits from a short-term sexual encounter, whereas future fertility offers benefits from a long-term relationship, such as marriage. Donald Simons, one of the pioneers of the study of human sexuality, was the first one to develop the idea that men should find ornamentation associated with youth to be most attractive. Because a young woman who isn't fertile yet would not have been investing her time and energy in other men's children, would have had more living relatives to invest in her and her children, and would have been more likely to survive until a newly conceived child was old enough to survive on his own. This explains the incredible popularity of teens. It also suggests that men are predominantly evolved to prefer long-term child-rearing relationships with women, not one-night stands. Because in species where males are evolved to prefer short-term sexual encounters, such as chimpanzees, males do not tend to find adolescents attractive. They prefer mature women, because mature women tend to have greater current fertility than adolescents. But how does that explain the incredible popularity of the MILF genre, which is second only to teen porn? According to psychologist David Buss, though men exhibit a general preference for youth and long-term relationships, the male brain is designed to flexibly pursue both long-term and short-term sexual relationships, what he called mixed mating strategies. This is also well supported by men's personal search histories. Many men who search for teen porn also search for MILF porn. And this might be one of the prime reasons for the appeal of MILFs. As we discussed earlier, most fans of MILFs fantasize about getting seduced by a MILF for a one-night stand, rather than wooing her as a girlfriend or marrying her. Men prefer younger women for long-term relationships and marriage, whereas they prefer MILFs for one-night stands. But there's another problem with the appeal of MILFs. MILFs, by definition, are slightly heavier, bulkier women. And so, aren't fat women sort of inherently less attractive than skinny women? The sexual appeal of a MILF's heavier and curvier body busts a myth that women are led to believe by other women. Many magazines and fashion shows feature women with dangerously low BMI as the quintessential mark of feminine beauty. But it is important to note that Cosmopolitan and Victoria's Secret target women, not men. Like age, a woman's body size is another cue that is a natural trigger of male arousal. And skinny is not what men are searching for. For every search for a skinny girl, there are almost 3 searches for a fat girl. Fat is the 15th most popular category of porn, whereas skinny ranks at 29th. To determine what most men like in pornography, Dr. Ogus and Dr. Gaddam analyzed the average BMI and weight of 200 popular American and European porn actresses under age 30. For reference, healthy BMI in women, as per the WHO, is between 18.5 and 24.9. Supermodels and actresses like Paris Hilton and Angelina Jolie were both well below the healthy BMI range. European porn actresses were at 18.4, just shy of the healthy range, and American porn actresses were at 18.8, within the healthy range. Donald Simons believes that the preference for heavier than average women over lighter than average women may be due to a concept known as asymmetrical fitness. Let me explain. Let's say there is an optimum weight that a woman should be at to bear healthy children. We now know through science that going slightly below that weight will be associated with infertility and poor health. In fact, if a woman's weight drops below a certain level, she will even stop ovulating. But if the same woman goes slightly above that weight, she will not suffer much of a drop in fertility or health. This puts evolutionary pressure on a man to prefer heavier than average women over lighter than average women. men are far more interested in slightly curvy, heavier women than the skinny ones that are marketed to women by the fashion industry. Men like to see some fat on women, but not all fat is created equal. Men like to see a very specific kind of fat. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about the 4 specific parts of the human body that trigger sexual desire in men: breasts, butts, feet, and penises. Penises? Yeah, penises. Let's go through them in order. Breasts, no matter what size, are the most popular body part in sexual searches across the world. Breasts are the 3rd most popular category of sexual search, after teens and MILFs. Out of the 40,000 most popular porn sites, 1,600 are devoted to large breasts. Dozens of synonyms for large appear in sexual searches for breasts, such as busty, massive, monster, gigantic, and ginormous. Of course, not all men are fans of ginormous breasts. Flat-chested women have enthusiastic fans too. Keira Knightley and Kate Hudson are both A-list and A-cup celebrities with devoted male followings. In Japan, a woman with small breasts is called Delicious Flat Chest, or DFC. And there are many popular animated DFC characters, such as Rukia Kuchiki, Kaide Kayano, and Kyoka Jiro. But when it comes to porn, it is indisputable that large breasts dominate it. Then there's butts. Although much less popular than breasts, butts are still the 21st most searched category of porn. When it comes to butt size, the story is the same as breasts. Bigger butts are indeed better butts. But the opposite is true for the next cue: feet. Feet are the 54th most popular category of sexual search. Out of the 40,000 most popular porn sites, almost 300 are dedicated to feet. The anthropologist Daniel Fessler found that men from a broad variety of societies, including Iran, Brazil, Tanzania, and Papua New Guinea, rate small feet as more attractive than large feet. Moreover, sexual foot sites are exclusively filled with depictions of small feet only. So the question once again rises: why? Why is it that when it comes to breasts and butts, bigger is better, but the opposite is true for feet? What is it that's driving these specific preferences? The answer lies in a single hormone: estrogen. The anatomy that men find attractive, breasts, butts, hips, feet, as well as feminine facial features, are all influenced by estrogen. Unhealthy and underfed women produce less estrogen and therefore may not be able to bear children, or may bear unhealthy children. Estrogen also regulates the distribution of a specific kind of fat in a woman's body. There are 2 kinds of fat. First is android fat, which is found in both men and women. It accumulates in the trunk, abdomen, and internally, and is used for everyday energy needs. Then there's gynoid fat, which is found only in women and is the source of female ornamentation. It is stored in the breasts, hips, butts, and thighs, and it supports the energy demands of pregnancy and lactation. It is only used during childbearing. Since these estrogen-fueled, gynoid fat-based ornaments are the best indicator of a woman's long-term reproductive value, youthful forms of these ornaments evolved to become the most potent visual cues for men. Breasts and butts that are slightly larger than average are more likely to reflect health and fertility than ones slightly smaller than average. Finally, there's even evidence that estrogen limits the growth of foot bones. Thus, a small foot size might be another indirect indicator of a woman's health and long-term childbearing prospects. And that's it. Age, weight, breasts, butts, and feet. These are the 5 natural cues that men throughout the world find attractive and search for in internet porn. Now let's talk about the 6th natural cue: the male obsession with penises. The fact of the matter is that men are more interested in penises than women are, and men are much more interested in large penises than women are. An eye tracking study recorded what men and women looked at as they viewed different non-pornographic images. They found that men consistently direct their gaze to the male crotch, while women rarely do so. In fact, penis is the sixth most searched category of porn among straight men. It ranks above categories like lesbian, small breasts, and female masturbation. It even ranks above primary male visual cues like butts and feet. Big dick is a popular category of porn on all of the major porn sites, including Pornhub. Out of the 40,000 most popular porn sites, almost 1,000 are dedicated to heterosexual porn with large pen. Enough! This data and studies are bullshit. I am not interested in other men's penises, okay? Of course, I like the man to have a large penis in porn, but not because I like the penis per se. Perhaps I like the penis because of what it represents, which is that it will give greater sexual pleasure to the woman. It is the woman that I am focused on. So stop this, whatever the fuck you're saying. And perhaps he is right. But that still doesn't explain one thing: the incredible popularity of cuckold porn. Cuckold is the fourth most searched category of porn among straight men, ranking above both penis and vagina. Out of the 40,000 most popular porn sites, almost 300 are dedicated to cuckold porn. If you're not familiar with the category, let me explain. In cuckold porn, a wife, the cuckoldrix, cheats on her husband with another man, the cuckolder, while the husband watches them with frustration from the sidelines. And more often than not, the cuckolder is a well-built, well-hung black man. And of particular interest in cuckold porn is the black man's penis. It's inevitably large, and the cuckoldrix always taunts her husband about how much more she likes it compared to the smaller organ of the husband. So here's the question: why would a straight man get more turned on by watching a masculine, dominant man have sex with his wife? What could the answer possibly be if not an obsession with another man's penis, especially when it's bigger than your own? Evolutionary biology has an interesting answer. Sperm competition. Sperm competition refers to a variety of physiological and behavioral adaptations that enable a male sperm to compete head-to-head with another male sperm to impregnate a female's egg. Consider the following scenario. You are transported 5 million years back in time into the same territory in Africa where your ancestor apes lived. Unaware of your moral views against public display of penises, one particular ape proudly displays his erect penis to a lady ape. While you're completely outraged by his behavior, most other apes in the vicinity don't really care, except one. This one is your ancestor, and he knows perfectly well that the ape is inviting the lady ape for sex. And if these two end up having sex, then he'll reproduce and your ancestor will not, which is an idea your ancestor cannot tolerate. So your ancestor follows the two of them behind the bushes and watches them carefully while they're having sex. Wow. Your ancestor's penis becomes erect as he watches the two apes go at it, a point of utter shame for you. Then as soon as the two apes are done and the male ape leaves, your ancestor seduces the lady ape and starts having sex with her with complete abandon. Rarely have you seen a more horny ape going at it with so much energy. Your terrible masturbation addiction makes sense now. Clearly, all this horniness comes from 5 million years of horny ancestors. While you're busy blaming your ancestors for all your problems, your ancestor ape ejaculates inside the lady ape, displacing the sperm of her previous mate and replacing it with his own sperm. 9 months later, a baby ape is born, and that bloodline leads to your birth 5 million years down the line. All because 5 million years ago, your ancestor developed the behavioral adaptation to be acutely aware of erect penises in his surroundings, especially when those erect penises are combined with a receptive female inside. And because he learned to be aroused while watching other apes have sex, so he could swoop in after and displace the other male sperm with his own sperm. This is exactly the kind of dynamic that plays out in present-day chimpanzees, our closest primate relative. The sperm competition cue is a behavioral adaptation to ensure maximum reproductive success. The appeal of cuckold porn is a side effect of this adaptation. But why does cuckold porn involve big black dudes with big black penises? In many species, the more dominant the potential rival, the greater the sperm competition cue, and the more intense the arousal. Perhaps because dominant males tend to ejaculate more vigorously than submissive males, and therefore submissive males need to be that much more aroused in order for their sperm to compete more effectively. Since black men are frequently perceived as more dominant, they may activate the sperm competition cue more effectively. Sperm competition adaptations are not just behavioral, they can also be physiological. For example, chimpanzees have the largest testicles as a proportion of body size in the entire animal kingdom. They are designed to blast out a competitor's sperm with a fire hose of fresh sperm. Many biologists believe that the human penis is another such physiological adaptation. Humans have the largest penis as a proportion of body size amongst all primates, and it is the only one with a bulb-like head at the top instead of being straight throughout. Its shape is very effective at shoveling out the sperm of rival males. In fact, the reason that the penis becomes flaccid after ejaculation is to ensure that males do not accidentally shovel out their own sperm. So far, we've learned that men can flexibly be attracted to teens and MILFs at the same time. We also learned that when it comes to weight, men prefer slightly heavier, curvier women than skinny ones. We then learned that the three most powerful visual cues for men in the female body are breasts, butts, and feet. When it comes to breasts and butts, bigger is often better, whereas the opposite is true for feet. And lastly, that because of the behavioral adaptations caused in the male brain over millions of years, the penis, especially when combined with the receptive female inside, is also a potent male visual cue that can evoke sexual arousal. After understanding all of the above, is it any surprise then that so many straight men search for and watch trans porn on the internet? Trans porn is the 16th most searched category of porn among straight men, more popular than butts, threesomes, and interracial sex. Pornhub and many other porn sites feature the occasional trans porn on their front page, but they only present gay porn if you actively search for it. Why? Because as the porn industry knows all too well, the primary audience for trans porn is straight men. The trans porn star consists of the novel combination of two kinds of male visual cues. First is a set of cues for femininity: large breasts and butts, curvy figures, and feminine facial features and mannerisms. All of these cues trigger the male brain's usual arousal from an attractive female body. And then there's that extra little something. And little is a massive understatement, because many trans porn stars have a penis that would embarrass the biggest, baddest male porn stars, let alone average men out there. This triggers the sperm competition cue in men, especially because the penis is combined with the cues of an attractive female body in the same frame. And to understand this even more clearly, we can look towards another genre of porn, futanari. Futanari is a genre that depicts anime-style characters in porn, except that instead of male or female, the characters are transsexual. Because the characters are hand-drawn or computer-generated, they are completely free from any physical constraints of biology or gravity. And therefore, futanari creators can push the sexual cues of the characters to an extreme to appeal to audiences. And so, what do we see in futanari porn? The characters usually look like high school teenagers with big innocent eyes, brightly colored hair, and beautiful faces, only to reveal an hourglass figure with asteroid-sized breasts and butts. Nothing could possibly make you think that this girl is trans, except that apparently she also has a penis that is longer than her entire leg. The genre makes the appeal of trans porn completely clear. Extreme visual cues of femininity combined with the sperm competition cue of a huge penis to evoke maximum sexual arousal in a straight man. There's many more interesting facets here to discuss. We talked about male visual cues, but males also have psychological cues that they find attractive in a woman. We also didn't talk about gay men, who, by the way, find trans porn to be a massive turn-off. And of course, we left out female sexuality completely, which is far more complex and interesting than male sexuality. If you're interested in diving deeper, I highly recommend Dr. Ogus and Dr. Gaddam's book, A Billion Wicked Thoughts: What the Internet Tells Us About Sexual Relationships. I'll link it in the description. Finally, understand that what we've talked about is a simplification of male sexuality. To borrow the words of Dr. Ogus and Dr. Gaddam, we can understand how the sexual brain works using statistics and large sample sizes. But you are a wholly unique combination of desires and experiences that almost certainly exists nowhere else. Science cannot tell us which sexual tastes are moral and which immoral, but it does tell us that a man's sexuality is incredibly rigid, and it is almost impossible to treat away a man's sexual inclinations. So, whether you deviate a little or a lot from this simplification, as long as you respect other people's and animals' sexual boundaries, your tastes and preferences are as normal as anyone else's. Thank you for watching.